Hi, it's me, Vicky Marie. Now, I thought I'd give you a little update. It's again not much of an update. It's a very frustrating case. This is the case of Rachel Morin, and Rachel Morin is a 37-year-old mother of 5 children, a very beautiful woman who went for a run on the Ma Trail in Maryland, nearby where she lived, as she did regularly, and just didn't go home. So the alarm was sounded. Her boyfriend contacted the police to say that she hadn't come back. Her vehicle was found there right near the trail. And this was in August. So this was on the 6th of August. So it's quite a long time ago. In fact, I'll just share this with you so that you can see a picture of her as well. So just for those of you who maybe don't know about, because I get new subscribers every day. So there may be some of you that don't know. I've been covering this case ever since it happened. So this is Rachel. As I say, Rachel was 37 years old, a mother of 5 children of various ages, from a very big family, a lady with a very, very big family, lots of siblings as well. Anyway, we're going to look at some of her siblings talking, so that'll give you an idea of the sort of person Rachel was. Or will always be. Because really, it's not only the sort of person she was, she is that person, and she always will be that person. Anyway, so all the police have released as, how she actually left this world was that she was the victim of a violent homicide. So they haven't released any details. The sheriff's office are keeping everything very close to their chest, as you would imagine, because eventually, I'm 100% certain this case will be solved for reasons that I'm going to tell you about in a minute. So to not prejudice that trial when it finally happens, the police are playing their cards close to their chest, as they always have to. They give out what information they can, but it's very frustrating. It's frustrating for us, but so imagine what it's like for the family. I know the family are frustrated at the lack of information sometimes that they receive, and this often happens, doesn't it, in MURDERSs. Anyway, she's become, a figure that's talked about all over the world, because I think it's just gone on so long, and it's the mystery of it. And there was a massive surprise. A couple of weeks after she was found dead, the police gave a press conference and informed us that they had found DNA evidence that was linked to a home invasion hundreds of miles away, right over the other side of America, in Los Angeles, or near Los Angeles. So, I think we all thought then, when this DNA was linked, that although it was mysterious how far away it was from, the DNA had been linked to a home invasion right over the other side of America. So there was a bit of sort of mystery, is like, gosh, who travels that far? And, is it a trucker? Is it someone in the military? Is someone who's got connections? Anyway, also the video, we will be seeing the video as we go on through what we're going to look at in this video of mine. We'll be looking at her sister talking. We'll be looking at her brother, one of her brothers speaking. Getting some more information, really about Rachel herself as well, and what kind of person she is. So she was last seen on that nature trail round about 6 p.m. and her vehicle was found by the trail. And then a couple of weeks later, this was announced about the DNA. And so we're talking about 6th of August, and we're now on the 13th of October. So it's a long, long time, so, oh, yeah, well, let's have a look at this because we can show this.
Good evening. I'm Hartford County Sheriff Jeff Gaylor. This week marked 1 month since Rachel Morin,
this guy is my favorite sheriff,
was killed while on the Monpa Trail here in Bel Air. We appreciate all your tips, and today I want to bring you, our community, up to date on some of our investigative efforts, but I will continue to hold off on confirming the details of Rachel's death and information related to the crime scene. That said, what we have done is we have collected and watched hours of video footage from around the trail. This includes both videos recovered from homes, residences, and businesses in the Bel Air area. Our digital forensic unit has reviewed phones, texts, phone calls, and cell phone locations and data, and this effort continues. Working with our state and federal partners, we have and continue to utilize any and all technology available to further this investigation. We've worked with our local Hispanic nonprofits and businesses and local media who are attempting to help us identify the suspect in this case. Our detectives have traveled across the country and have logged countless hours on interviews. Deputies and investigators have canvassed areas related to Rachel.
So they have been all over the country, and so we think because they haven't managed to, nobody has come forward and identified the person that is actually on the, let's see if it, where's it gone now? Oh, it just disappeared. Nobody has come forward and identified them. They have got some door cam footage of him, but it's only really from the back or the side, so it's not a clear picture of his head, though I do think if somebody knew this guy, they would know, if you knew this guy, if you'd met him, you would recognize him, if you see what I mean. But they have been all over the country, various locations, Chicago, back up to Los Angeles, etc., to talk to people. And we think, but again, they haven't confirmed it, so they're not confirming much, that this is possibly due to genealogical DNA testing, that maybe partial matches are coming up and they're going up and interviewing these people. I have a really strong feeling, total random reason why I sort of wanted to do this video as well, is I just feel like it's going to be very, very soon. I feel like the next sort of, this guy will be caught. I do think it's a question of when, not if. Let's have a look again. There he is. So I do really honestly think if you knew that person, you would recognize him. Somebody knows who he is. But one thing that they found out, because he's Hispanic apparently, so one thing that they found out this was a home invasion. He's coming out of there cool as a cucumber. Somebody's letting him out of the door there, but the sheriff said that they've got nothing to do with the inquiry. He's a approximately 5'9" tall man, mid-20s to 30s, weighs about 160 pounds with dark hair. So of course that could be a lot of people, isn't it? As far as we can see, there's no tattoos. He did have a necklace around his neck. He had like a gold necklace around his neck. He also, I think, just the fact he didn't have any tattoos is a telling thing in this day and age, isn't it? And yeah, he had like this very shaven haircut, which could be a military thing, or it just could be the fashion of the time. But yeah, it'd be a good idea, I suppose, if they went around and spoke to hairdressers. He's gone to some kind of, Hispanic barber shops and things, I don't know, maybe there's too many of them. I'm sure they have been doing that anyway. They'll have been going everywhere and asking. But yeah, it's quite frustrating that it seems to have been taking so long. So you're looking at, 3 months, August, September, October, and with the DNA. But the problem is they've got the DNA, but he's never been arrested for a serious crime before because they have no DNA on Codis on the DNA database. So he's somehow he's either not done anything before or he's just not been caught for anything before. And I don't think there's any other DNA in any other crimes. But of course, the suspicion is that he could have already done this kind of thing before. He could do it again. You know, he's a very dangerous person. It was a very violent attack. That is something that they have released. That's about the only thing that they've released. Now, and of course, then the question, did he know Rachel? Did he hang her? Maybe because she was in a regular habit of going for a run along that trail. He may have seen her before. You know, there's all sorts of things. So we just have one more look at him. Sheriff Gaylor says he will kill again. You know, so there you go. That's what we knew so far. So he'd said at the time of this article, which is probably quite a while ago, to be honest, his fear would be that the killer would escalate. So anyway, a little bit of sort of new news, if you like, is on one of the news programs. One of Rachel's sisters, I have to say, because she does have at least two sisters, if not more. There's quite a few of them. Was interviewed on Court TV. So we're going to have a little look at that interview. I have to, you know, stop it every now and again just in case. They don't tend to, you know, as long as it's fair use and you give them credit, they don't tend to copyright you. But, you know, I'm never 100% certain. So this is Court TV. She was 1 in a million.
On the tragic death of beautiful Rachel Morin. The mother of 5 was discovered along a popular hiking trail almost 2 months ago. Very few details have been released on how she was killed, but authorities have been fielding tips trying to identify this guy.
Almost 2 months ago, but it was the 6th of August. So 6th of August, 6th of September. Yeah, so it's just over 2 months, yeah.
The man in this video. They've said that his DNA was found at a different crime scene back in March at a home invasion in Los Angeles, and that DNA matched the DNA left behind.
Yeah, I just keep watching this video over and over, and I just know that if I knew that man, if he was a man that I knew in my life, I don't even mean in, you know, even intimately, I don't mean as a partner or as a son, or I think I would know who it was. I think there's enough that you can see of him there that if you knew him, you would say, oh, that's Raul or Pedro or whatever. Obviously, he's going to have some sort of a Spanish name. Yeah, so it's strange that nobody is. He's quite distinctive, isn't he? Even on that video where you don't see him properly.
At the crime scene where Rachel was killed. And now police have increased the reward for information leading to that killer's arrest to $30,000.
Yeah, so the reward for information leading to his arrest has gone from, started off at $10,000, then it went up to $20,000. So that's $10,000 the police apparently offered, $10,000 the family offered, and another $10,000 that a local business has offered. So the reward is $30,000. That's a lot of money, isn't it? So again, it's a surprise. Nobody's come forward. You know, where is this? He's like a ghost, you know, to me. He's like a ghost, but he can't be, you know, he's at night, he's putting his head down somewhere at night, he's eating somewhere, he's sleeping somewhere, he's, you know, where is he?
This is all in an effort to get that monster off the streets before he kills again.
That's enough for someone to recognize who that person is. The people that know him will recognize him.
See, that's it, Jeff. I agree completely. This is Jeff, my sheriff. I completely agree with him. People who know him will recognize him. It's just trying to get this, because apparently they found out when they went around and interviewed like the Hispanic communities, a lot of them, they hadn't even heard of this case. So they're not watching they're watching their own TV, or, they're not, and at first I thought, well, how could that be? But then I thought about how it is here in Spain. How expats, as they call them, not immigrants. No, they're not immigrants. They're expats who come here and never bother learning Spanish or integrating into the Spanish society. But they're not immigrants. They're expats. But I was thinking about them. They come over, they get their British TV. They never watch the Spanish TV. They don't speak Spanish, so they don't go on the Spanish social media. So probably, yeah, if a Spanish person went missing or news, well, I know for a fact when the Spanish chef, murdered his boyfriend and dismembered him in Thailand. That's going to have speaking sort of a bit Spanglish there. In Thailandia. British people that lived here, or not only British people, but any other national, they didn't know about it, because they don't watch the Spanish news. It was all over the Spanish news. It was all they were talking about, probably a bit like they are with this, probably in those areas anyway. And, it's even reached us over in Britain, etc., and all over the world, in fact. English-speaking countries. So this is the thing. So yeah, it's true. It's entirely possible that if a lot of these Hispanic communities, don't watch the regular news, just like British people who live here don't watch the Spanish news. So it does sort of make sense. You can't get your head around it. You think, oh gosh, surely someone will have seen them, but maybe they haven't watched it.
Off of his build, off of his walk, off of the haircut. There's people out there who know him. We need to talk to them and get this guy, this monster, off the street. Our investigators are confident. I feel confident that if we cannot locate him and get him removed from whichever community he is hiding in, he will do this again. He has shown an absolute disregard for human life, that he'll go to extremes as he.
So don't forget, Jeff knows what happened to Rachel. They haven't released the information about how she died, but just the way he talks about it, he's got no regard for human life. You can see. I mean, they did say, they hinted at the violence that was involved. And somebody else who supposedly their stepdaughter found the body, they made a comment that, well, she won't be having an open casket. Let's just say that, which they should never have made that comment, really, because that would be very hurtful to Rachel's family. Though I expect they maybe know more of the details than we do, but maybe not from what the family is saying. I think the police, there are some things they just cannot say until they've got this guy. Once they've got this guy, I think obviously a lot more will come out. But until they've got him in custody, which, you know what, I just feel like that's going to be... He can't run forever, can he? He cannot run forever unless he actually has left the country, which is always a possibility. We'll see.
Is it in Rachel's case to try to hide any evidence of what he has done, and he could be in any neighborhood in this country.
It's so beautiful, the place. You think these horrible things that happen in beautiful places. It's awful.
And for the very latest on where this investigation stands right now, we have Harford County Sheriff Jeff Gaylor joining us live this morning by phone. Sheriff, good morning to you. Tell us, are you any closer to locating the suspect?
Well, I'd love to say nothing else other than yes, we are. I will say we've had some promising developments in some of the evidence has led us to additional interviews, and these are not interviews of like witnesses. These are actually interviews on the trail trying to identify this person. The evidence has taken us down to Washington, D.C. Our investigators were down in D.C. last week doing those follow-ups. With those promising, they have potential to be very promising. They also have the potential not to be fruitful, but
Yeah, I mean, he always says in such a polite way, sort of not much at all, really, because he says they've got the potential to be very promising, but also the potential to not be fruitful. But he always says it in such a sort of a way where, you know, I don't know, he must be sick of going on and just not having anything to say, really.
I stand hopeful, as our community does, that we get the tip or the lead that takes us in the right direction to get this guy off the street.
Absolutely, Sheriff. We know you all are hard at work. And you mentioned D.C. We at Court TV also understood that you spoke to someone in Chicago about a lead. What can you tell us about that, please?
And again, and I know it's frustrating for listeners, for people who watch the program, to not that want to know more, and a lot of things in the case don't seem to make sense. But our investigators do continue to work this diligently, but we don't want to put in jeopardy the case that's eventually going to stand up.
So this was like a memorial sort of walk for Rachel, of course, and there's lots of people there. But this is a trail where there normally are lots of people. You know, Rachel had parked her car at the car park. She was found about a mile away from the car park. She had gone into the trail. She was found in some tunnels, which we're going to see on an interview later. Some tunnels which apparently are really, really difficult to find, you know, so you'd have to know that area quite well to even know they were there. So the perpetrator, he knew these tunnels were there. So how did he know? How did he know so much? You know, it's interesting.
Against this guy. So our investigators went out to Los Angeles first. They did interviews out there, hand in hand with the Los Angeles Police Department, and information that we gathered from out there led us.
This guy in the middle, I think this is one of her brothers, because we're gonna look at it. He's speaking in an interview we're gonna look at shortly. I think that's him, but his beard has grown since then, but I think that is the brother.
On to Chicago, where our investigators went out there. You know, these are not the sort of things you do over the phone. You do, cold interviews and try to get to the bottom. And these are not suspect interviews that we were doing, but people tied to the incident in Los Angeles.
And so the problem is we have DNA at 2 crime scenes that matches, but we don't know the identity of this person whose DNA it is.
Correct. We were very fortunate that in that incident in Los Angeles, the police recovered several pieces of evidence related to their investigation, which is still an open and active investigation by that police department. So I'm limited on what I can say there. But
so he can't. So he said they uncovered several pieces of evidence, which is interesting. But he always says, "Oh, I don't want to go into that," So they can't talk about that. But the thing is, it's the DNA that's the key. So the good news is, of course, that once they do actually, they can eliminate people or, identify people on that DNA. So as soon as they do get him, they'll know straight away if it's him or not. Because they've got DNA, and that's a big thing. Just unfortunate. It's funny, isn't it? Because normally if the DNA comes up, they put it through the test. And it'll come up, oh yeah, it's such and such, somebody who's been in prison before or whatever. But in this case, they linked it to another crime. But there's no name because this guy's never been identified.
But they recovered evidence off of that DNA. When we submitted DNA from the homicide of Rachel, we got a hit in the federal system, nothing in the state system. We got a hit in the federal system. So that, the science helped us, and thank goodness that Ring video doorbell was preserved. But the science led us back to that case and be able to tie these 2 cases together.
We know you're following up on all the tips. rmtips@harfordsheriff.org is where you can send them in. Sheriff Jeff Gaylor, thank you so much for your time. Please keep us apprised of any more information that we can share about this case. If there's anything more we can do to help the public, we want to do that at Court TV.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you kindly. Take good care.
Now she's going to interview one of Rachel's sisters. And she's also going to interview a YouTuber who we're going to look at his video when he has on his show He talks about it here. You'll see in a moment. He is going to interview one of Rachel's brothers, the one that I said to you with the beard, and also he's going to interview Rachel's first. I don't know if she married again actually, but Rachel's husband that she's estranged from quite a long time, but he's the father of her oldest child. So the YouTuber that she's going to talk to, we're also going to look at his bits. I mean, it was a very long podcast, a very long show, if you like, but it was really interesting. I'm going to show you some bits of it, but not the whole thing because it was nearly 2 hours, I think. So, but I am going to show you some bits of it, and of course, you'll be able to see where to go on it. And if you want to watch the whole thing, which I would recommend, it is very interesting because he also has a couple of experts on as well. So there's the YouTuber guy, one of Rachel's brothers, the father of Rachel's oldest child, and then two sort of a profiler and another expert, a geographical expert. So it is very interesting. It's just very long. But what we're going to look at now is Rachel's sister.
I want to bring in two other very special guests this morning. Rachel Morin's sister, Erin Morin Lehman, is joining us this morning. She is alongside our pal here on Opening Statements, the co-host of the Surviving the Survivor podcast, journalist Joel Waldman. Good morning to you both. And Erin, let me just start by saying on behalf of everyone on the Opening Statement show here on Court TV and our network at large, we are so sorry for your loss, and we thank you for coming on to talk about it with us today. Would you take us back to how you learned about this and tell us what that was like for you, please?
It's strange now, isn't it? Because of social media and things. Thing is, you can use, if you use social media properly, you can use it for good. So Rachel's sister has decided to come on, obviously, because the way they're feeling at the moment is anything that can raise awareness. They want this man to be caught. It won't bring Rachel back. I get emotional as usual, but I'll tell you something. I've been so impressed with this family. You'll see when she's talking in a moment, and when her brother's talking. Oh, and what a brother has been through, apart from losing Rachel. Her brother has been through. His wife died of cancer. He lost a 4-month-old baby, and now his sister. But he is. Well, you'll see what it's like. They're, I suppose, what you'd call years ago God-fearing people or whatever. And the sort of tranquility. They're not this sort of raging anger, which you think, I don't know how I would be, as much as I try to be sort of spiritualist and. I believe in forgiveness and I believe in all that, but I just don't know how they're doing it. But you'll see that in a moment. There are, I think Rachel must have been a very beautiful person as well as being beautiful. She's had a lot of victim shaming because of, obviously she looked after her appearance. I hate that, as if she wasn't supposed to care about what she looked like. That's up to her what she wants to do. Does that mean, was she like a beacon to be sort of, dragged off the trail and brutally assaulted and murdered? Was it her fault then for being too distinctive, for being too beautiful? I mean, it makes me so angry that. So I hope you will comment on this video, but please don't make any comments about Rachel, any bad comments about any of the victims on any of my videos. Will be just binned straight away.
I was actually on vacation, not in town, and saw the Facebook post of Rachel, her being missing. And at first glance, I just was like, well, no, she probably just, just was out late the night before and she'll come home. And then immediately my stomach.
That's it. Would be your first thought, wouldn't it? I mean, she's a grown woman. You just think, oh, she'll have been out somewhere with her friends, or you just it just wouldn't compute that anything like that might have happened to her.
I just got sick, and I was like, no, this is serious. So when we returned from vacation immediately that Sunday morning on August 6th, I went to the Mom Paw Trail to go look for her. By the time I got there, it was already, police were there. It was already a crime scene. So I just had to sit there and wait about 45 minutes for the investigator to come, talk to us. So.
Erin, we're so sorry. It's like a nightmare. It's like you've been living a nightmare.
Totally.
I understand that your family has enlisted the help of a criminal profiler to try to help you solve this case. Would you?
Now, I did a video on this. Remember, this is Pat Brown, I think she's talking about.
Tell us about any leads that you've discovered through that work.
I mean, with her, we're able to write up a flyer, and we actually went canvassing through the neighborhood and businesses locally to pass the flyer around to try to give some ideas of tips of who this guy might be, different traits, personalities. Then we discovered canvassing the neighborhood that there were some Hispanic communities that did not know this story was even happening. So we got it rewritten in Spanish. And again, we went out canvassing to.
Yeah, so that's what she said. So all the posters and leaflets, etc., they got them all translated in Spanish as well. And, in the hope that would reach further, but still nothing locally has come up.
To make everybody aware and alert, be cautious of their surroundings, and that any tip, no matter how small, how they might think it's insignificant, could be a key factor to the missing puzzle to this case.
We hope that any information will lead in the right place and lead to justice for your family and for Rachel, of course, Erin. Joel Waldman, I want to bring you in on this, please. You have been following this case closely.
Yeah, so this is the guy from the YouTube channel that we're going to look at later, which is Surviving the Survivor. Strange name for a YouTube channel, but I'm sure there's a reason for that. He's the co-host, apparently, so there's two of them. And this is Aaron Joe Waldman.
Closely since its inception, and we know that police believe that Rachel could have been randomly attacked while she was out on this trail. I'm curious, through your research and all the digging that you've done, does that seem to be the case to you, Joel?
Good morning, Julie, and obviously our heartfelt condolences to Erin and the rest of her family. It does appear to be random from all accounts right now. There does not appear to be any connection, and I've been talking to family members, and I'm going to have Erin's brother Nate on the show today at 5 p.m. Eastern time. We're going to talk to him extensively, as well as Rachel's, the father of Rachel's older children. But yeah, they're just very upset. They're a very resilient family, but frustrated, as one can understand. And this is why I got into true crime, to try to help these victims' families. They're just not getting the answers. I know you had Sheriff Gaylor on just now, who I'm sure is working diligently.
Yeah, you see, sometimes, people, you say, all these families are not getting the answers from the police. And yeah, but the police cannot give the answers until the suspect is in custody.
Diligently, but Erin can probably attest to this better than.
And even then, they can't give all the answers because there'll be a case coming up, a trial coming up, and they've got to be careful not to prejudice the trial.
Me, the family members that I've spoken to feel frustrated that they're not getting the necessary information, or for that matter, any information right now about where this investigation stands.
Right, Joel. And when I look at that video, I think this guy's not a ghost. I mean, there's a person who did this. It's not like we have no idea. We know it's somebody. We know somewhat of what this guy looks like. They've got his DNA. This is a bad guy, a criminal who's committing crimes, invading homes, killing a beautiful mother of 5 children with her whole life ahead of her. This is a bad person. So this has to go somewhere. And I have a lot of confidence in having been a prosecutor before coming to court TV, knowing that law enforcement are always further along than they're able to let the public know. And I hope that...
Yeah, they're always further along than they're able to let the public know. Or, you know, generally in an investigation like this. I think that was gosh, I still haven't done a video on the Idaho 4 and Brian Kohlberg. You know, that was it. It seemed like they had no leads, and then suddenly they've arrested someone. And it's not because they had no leads, it's just they weren't divulging, you know, the investigations that they were doing.
Brings you some bit of comfort, Erin, knowing that they've got to be further along than what they tell everyone so as not to jeopardize things. But if they catch this guy, and hopefully they will, God willing that they will, Erin, if you could say anything.
This I thought was a really stupid question that the reporter asked. She asks Erin, if you could say anything to Rachel's killer, what would you say? You know, I do think it's a silly question, but having said that, when you hear the answer, I thought it was very telling about the kind of family they are. They're such a lovely family.
To your sister's killer, what would you say to him?
I don't know if I could say that on the air. I'm sorry.
No. We wouldn't blame you for anything like that you would want to say. Right.
You know, but you know what? I think in the heart of it, because we're all believers, and I know Rachel's in heaven. She's with our Creator, and I would literally, I would want him to find God, to turn his life around. This is a God problem, and only He can change a person like that. You know, there's nothing I could say that would change it. There's nothing I would say that would make him want to change. You know, that he just needs a coming to God moment. And hopefully his capture and his imprisonment, and that will give him the time to reflect and to turn his life around. And
yeah, so she thinks, I mean, I'm sure she's got a lot of other things she's thinking in her head. That doesn't mean to say that she doesn't hate him, but it's what she's saying that she's thinking. She's trying to what's the word? So her human reaction obviously is going to be what she would say to him. She couldn't repeat on TV, but then she's trying to, because of her religious convictions, you know, she knows that it's between him and God, and so it's interesting. I hope that helps her, because, you know, if you're not a believer, or, you know, it's hard to sort of fathom that. So I've seen families on their victim impact statements turn around and forgive, you know, murderers on loads of true crime things that I've watched. And it's always very powerful. And that's when the perpetrators, if they ever get upset, that's when they get upset. You know, they sit there, they don't care. I've seen, you know, the Green River Killer, Gary Ridgway, he murdered so many women, he couldn't even remember the women he'd murdered. But when one guy stood up and talked about his loved one and said, I forgive you, you know, you've got to face it, you've got to face your maker. And he started crying, the guy. Because, you know, so that's it. You have got to be bigger than them. You have got to be bigger than them, because you can't bring your loved one back. And I know it'd be hard. God, I don't even know what I'd be like if it was me. I don't know if I could do it. But I think when they do manage to do it, I think it helps them.
You know.
Wow. That is so big of you. I mean, that is just wow, wow. Erin, what a sweetheart you are, and it sounds like your sister was the same way too, right? A woman of God.
She was. Oh, she was. Big heart, beautiful soul, and yeah, she'll be missed.
Most definitely, and certainly not forgotten. Joel Waldman, you are one of those people keeping Rachel Morin's memory alive.
Okay, so that's it really from that. So that's Rachel's sister talking about her. Now, what do you think? Do you think forgiveness is the way? Do you think you could forgive? Maybe you're out there, maybe you've had to forgive. I mean, we've all had to forgive some things. I've found just obviously not things like that. I've not had to, luckily for me, had to forgive, but I've had to forgive other things, small things, smaller things. Sometimes, I've had to forgive people that weren't even sorry for what they'd done. And I'm sure you all have. I'm sure a lot of you have. And it does feel better for you. For me, anyway, it did. So you just have to rise above it. Sometimes you can't change that person or what they've done or change only they could, they've got, I do believe in personal responsibility. So I've done bad things in my life. And I'll be the one that has to pay for them. If I haven't paid for them already with karma, I'll have to pay in the next life. And I do believe that. So, but when it's as big a thing as that, I don't know. Forgiveness would be difficult, wouldn't it? Anyway, so the next thing I want to show you is the other podcast. So the guy that was on there talking, he did his interview with two experts and Rachel's brother. So I don't know if that's the same guy that was talking earlier. His beard looks different, or it could just be, what's the word, the camera angle, or maybe it wasn't, maybe that was someone else. So this is the father of Rachel's first, Matt McMahon. He's the father of Rachel's oldest child. And these two guys are some sort of experts in their field. So let's just have a look at that. I want to go to
all of this played out, and of course a Commonwealth of Pennsylvania police officer before then, but a great investigative mind. And Scott came on last minute at my request because there are some developments. And I told both Doug and Scott that the focus.
So this Scott Duffy, the guy who's talking about there with the glasses, he's a retired FBI agent and he's an expert in geographical, what do they call it, forensics or whatever. He's an expert in locations, etc. This Douglas McGregor, I'm not sure his background, but he's a profiler. Matthew is the father of Rachel's oldest child or children. I'm not sure if I thought it was just one, but we'll see. And Nathan is one of her brothers.
Of course, is going to be on Nate and Matt today, but they will be here to guide us as well. And of course, Doug McGregor, better known as the.
I'm just on a trail with her boyfriend. Not Bel Air.
I'm going to fast forward it just
I really was hoping
a little bit.
And we buried her on the Friday, and it was the following Saturday we found out Rachel had gone missing.
Just to go over a few things, and I was on Court TV with your sister Erin this morning, so the case.
Yeah, now the guy, Nate, the brother, he's been through this terrible, terrible time. He lost his wife to cancer. She was very young. And then he's lost a daughter as well. And then this with Rachel. Gosh, some people just never seem to get a break, do they?
We're trying to push it to get as much public attention as possible. Dan Abrams, who I used to work for when he was at MSNBC, I've heard him on News Nation saying that he's incredulous at the fact that this case has not been solved yet. We can obviously get Scott and Doug's take on that in a little bit, but I don't think people realize sort of the hotel that you've been to and back prior to Rachel's murder. If you're comfortable, and I asked you, and I think you are, your first wife passed away not that long ago. Can you tell us from what, and then what happened most recently with your child right before Rachel's murder?
Yes, with my late wife, she was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer around February of the year she passed, and pretty sudden decline. They said maybe 2 years. She had 9 months, passed away in that November. Pretty painful. That's the first real close loss that I've suffered in my life, other than my father, years before. And then, yeah, our young daughter passed away, 4 months old, passed away from SIDS. And we buried her on the Friday, and it was the following Saturday we found out Rachel had gone missing. And it was.
I mean, goodness me. So his wife has died of cancer, and his 4-month-old daughter dies, and he buries her one day, and then the following Friday, Rachel goes missing. Gosh, some people really, really do not get a break in life. And so, I have to sometimes, because, we all get things, we get down about things. Some things are more serious than others. But I know, for me at the moment, to be honest, the things that I'm not saying they're not serious, things that I do worry about. Anything you worry about is serious, but not in comparison. Just that you have to take everything one day at a time. You wake up in the morning and you're lucky if you wake up, you can get up, you can have a cup of tea, you can cuddle your kids, your husband, your wife, your children, or your dogs, or whatever. We've all got something to be grateful for. And this guy, gosh. Now, the father of Rachel's oldest child or children, this Matt McMahon, so I can't play all of this because, as I say, it's so long. But they do go on to talk about how actually it was Nate who introduced Matt to Rachel, because they were friends. They were already friends, and Nate had been saying to Matt, because he knew Matt was a nice person, he'd been saying to him, "Why don't you take Rachel out? Why don't you take Rachel out?" etc. And in the end, he did.
The Sunday after that, it was related to us that she was found and she had passed.
And Nate, I mean, my heart aches for you just hearing that. We had heard news reports early on, because I've been on this story from day one, that a family member had lost a child. I did not realize till I talked to you last night that it was you. So praying for you and your family, your late child, and of course your late wife. Tali is coming to us from Israel, where they're dealing with missile strikes, and just seems like the world is upside down right now. But she says from Israel, praying for Rachel and her family, hoping justice will prevail. And then going on to say, Tali says, sorry for your loss, Nate. So STS Nation, let's try to lift up the Morin family here and the McMahon family. And look at this. Maytree here said,
my daughter saying
This
that
one
you're not going to take
you,
me too. So I feel that she's doing better. Her next oldest child, which is not my child, but I love very much, she's doing well. She's getting straight A's.
Yeah, so Rachel's oldest child is the child that she shares with Matt. But also, he goes on to talk about her next oldest child that he thinks of. That they seem to have this nice, even though they were separated, there doesn't seem to be any. He speaks so nicely about Rachel. I don't know why they split up, but he's so lovely the way he talks about her.
She's in school. She's 13. She's making new friends. She's been seeing a counselor at school, and she's going to be adding a grief counselor this month. So I also feel very hopeful for her as well. But we're all trying to do the best we can.
and I know you sent me a note, and I thought what you said was right on target, which was, your child and Rachel's child going on that hike. is about as on that same trail is about as strong as of a rebuke as you could give.
Now, so what he'd said was that they decided his daughter and Rachel's other daughter, and they're both Rachel's daughters, decided to go for a walk on a trail. Like he's got it wrong there, the host. It wasn't the same trail that they decided to go on, but they decided to go for a walk on a trail just to almost like a statement, a statement to say that they, would carry on. But it wasn't the same trail. He seems to think it is, but he goes on to tell him that no, it wasn't.
To the killer. So I hope
it was a separate trail.
Separate trail. Okay.
It was not the same trail.
Okay. But still, the fact, she got up and did that, that's saying something to that killer out there. Scott Duffy, to you, before we get into investigative stuff, and then I'll toss it to Doug in the same way. You just heard Matt saying.
Right, I don't want to go into what they say. Let's see if I can find it. I'm really just interested in what the husband's got to say and what the brother's got to say.
It definitely does. And what do you make of the kind of the reading between the lines here that this guy, first of all, find out how many siblings Rachel has. Can you just break down sort of the family dynamic?
Yeah. So he asked the brother how many siblings have they. They're a big family. He said that they were not a rich family. They grew up poor.
Because I don't think people realize how many siblings she has.
Yeah, we got quite a few here. Got 4 brothers, 1 half brother, Rebecca, sister, and then Aaron. She's half. Josh and Aaron are my dad's first marriage there, but we all lived in the Harford County area together.
So it sounds like there are about 7 of them all together, maybe more. I sort of lost track in the middle of that.
Doug, to you, you kind of gave me
No offense, Doug, but I don't really want to listen to what you've got to say. Just
Nightwood here says
now
so much love and prayers to the family. I'm hearing from multiple people that it is now not being considered a sexual assault. So just since you were just mentioning that, what do you make?
Yeah, he mentioned earlier it was that home invasion in Los Angeles area. It was not a sexual assault. It's very mysterious that the police have, we know it involved a young female, but then the police said that the door was actually closed by a male. So we, because we don't know the details, the police are not releasing the details. But the one thing that I remember from ages ago, to be honest, he's saying this isn't just new news. This was said ages ago that it was not a sexual assault. Yeah. Oh, look, somebody's telling him here on the thing.
Make of that first the reports were sexual assault, and now they're saying it was not, and that is now a young. It was apparently just a home invasion. Now, what do you make of that, Scott?
Okay, so
All right, moving on.
Concurrent investigations
done exactly that, and not between.
For some of these things, like why? Like this doesn't. I'm just a simple guy, simple family man. Like this doesn't happen to us. Like and just realizing that keeping your faith and growing in your faith allows you to maintain a state of clarity and logic, and to be there to help others, to not lose.
You see, now he's talking about helping others after everything he's been through. There's certainly a special family. They remind me a bit of the Petitos, in the Gabby Petito case. I don't mean Brian's family, Brian Laundrie's family. I mean Gabby Petito's family. They were so, so dignified, so just, a lovely, lovely family. And you could see that they were. So you knew because they were so lovely that Gabby was lovely too. And this family echoing me, the Petitos. I've watched quite a few of them being interviewed, and the husband as well, the ex-husband, very dignified, very, it's humbling actually, because I get annoyed about such little things sometimes, and look at them.
Lose it emotionally. Don't get me wrong. I have my nights where I'm by myself in the dark and pillow in my face. And just in those broken moments, just praying and just still trusting God and just knowing like through all of this, it may not have been his will, but it happened. And, you got to carry on and you got to help and support the ones around you. It's like in any situation, if you
Well, that's it. That's what you have to do. You do have to carry on because you don't really have a choice, and you do have to help the people around you because they need help. And sometimes it's difficult, sometimes, isn't it, with grief? Because I remember when my dad died, I think, there's 5 of us, or there were then. Unfortunately, one of my brothers is no longer with us now. But I don't think we really supported each other very well. I think we all just went off with our own bits of grief, and we weren't very good, at actually supporting. We were so involved in our own grief of losing our dad. I don't think we helped each other through it. Whereas later on, then when my mum died, I think we did come back together a bit. I think the thing with my dad, it was such a shock, but I don't know if they're supporting each other. They do seem to appear sometimes separately, but that doesn't mean anything, I suppose. But yeah, it's lovely what you're saying. You do, and it's not only your siblings. I mean, there's the mum. I don't know if their father. I know the mum's definitely still alive. I don't know about the dad. It sounds like he's got other children apart from the little one that he sadly lost. There's lots of people need supporting, don't they? Children do keep you going. I think if you've got to look after your kids, and then of course it's Rachel's children, 5 children who now have not got a mother. I just think it's humbling to see somebody talk like that.
play sports or if you're in the military, you're a group, you're a family. If one goes down, we all lift them up. And, that's just what I'm trying to do, who I'm trying to be, and just show that, you can have, this time to grieve, but still stay strong and do what you need to do for people around you.
And you told me that you're kind of the de facto patriarchal figure in your family. Now I understand why, because if I had issues and I got a bunch of years on you, I'm definitely going to you. So I might be calling you myself with my own issues soon, Nate. So you might have gotten yourself in trouble. Scott, back to you, and then we'll circle back. If you guys are good to go, keep going. I'm good to keep going. I think this is really fascinating. Hope no one's upset that we got 5 of us in here, but I think it's an interesting balance. But Scott, one of the things that's been talked about, but he was close to 90, and STS Nation was there for me. So these guys are going to be here for you, and we're going to definitely.
About a month ago, and I was a bit disheartened to hear that it was termed as about half a dozen.
Still out there, in the public. There might be a spike, but it's the media. They got to play what's gonna get the viewers on. And if this case dies down and there's nothing to talk about, unfortunately, you could see a decline in her story.
And that's what we're going to try to help with, is to keep it front and center. Matt, one of the things you told me to that point is day one of this horrific murder and scene, there was, you said 10 detectives, but at last count, there was about a half dozen or 6 detectives. Does that dishearten you in any way?
Oh, it absolutely does. It makes me wonder why they are not still going with the 10 detectives. I get that there's other crime that needs to be solved. But when I also hear that they have a lot of video that they need to sort through and a lot of cell phone data that they potentially need to sort through, and that it's going to take a lot of time, I have a little bit of trouble reconciling the mountain of data they say they need to sort through, and then the reduction of resources assigned to the case. And the last I had heard, That was the about a half a dozen detectives was, that was about a month ago. And I was a bit disheartened to hear that it was termed as about half a dozen, because I would think that if the number is in the single digits, you should be able to give an exact number, not an approximation.
Gosh, that's interesting, isn't it? I don't remember hearing that before when I was listening to it. But yeah, so that must be depressing. We start off with 10 detectives working on it, and then he said about half a dozen, and I agree with him. If it's that few number, then why can't you be exact? What they mean by about half a dozen maybe is 5. But that could be because they're concentrating on this DNA, aren't they? So, but then you'd think it'd be really urgent to catch this guy because of how nasty, and the fact he could do it, again. It may be because it is me trying to because I was trying to give the benefit of the doubt to people, but it may be because, of course, if that's the detectives that they've got working on it in Maryland, but of course, there's the LAPD as well who are working on that case. So maybe between them, there's more than that. But yeah, I'm interested to hear that, and that must be depressing for you as a relative. When you just want it won't bring your loved one back, but what it will do is give you some peace knowing that this person has been caught.
So how it was represented, I wasn't too thrilled with either.
And one of the things you pointed out on her more recent photo, she's wearing an Apple Watch, but you don't know, and we can defer to the investigators here. I assume they've got to be looking at data from that Apple Watch, but have you heard anything regarding that?
Specifically, I heard the question, but
with the Apple Watch,
she ran with her Apple Watch on.
Yeah.
I know that was her habit.
And do you know if they have, looked at that watch, sort of did an autopsy, if you will, on that watch? Do you have any idea?
I have not received specific comments about that from the detectives. I am not trying to be evasive, but I'm also trying not to say anything that is.
I feel like maybe he knows something about that, but he's just wondering what he can say and what he can't say because, obviously he doesn't want to jeopardize any future case. But this Apple Watch is going to be like the Fitbit, isn't it, with the Nicola Bulley case that causes so much, people trying to work it out. What did it mean? It's just like, I hated that thing about the Fitbit in the Nicola Bulley case because I just think nobody seems to be able to give a definitive answer about anything. Even Fitbit themselves were confusing when people asked them, and maybe the guy here, the FBI guy in the glasses, he did go on to say that he said that Apple did give very accurate readings. So
Potentially not public.
Yeah, I definitely don't want you to do that. But Scott, and then I'm going to get back to Doug in a second. But Scott, in 2023, how valuable is an Apple Watch that's being worn?
Well, it's another piece of technological evidence or potential evidence, and whether it be an Apple Watch, Fitbit, Apple Watch probably having a little bit more to capture. It can capture everything from heart rate. It can.
Yeah, so he seems to think an Apple Watch has more than a Fitbit.
There is always a downside in it, but forensically, it can, specify a time. For example, if she's on a run and this is her pattern, this is her heart rate, and then all of a sudden now begins the attack. Of course, the heart rate's going to go up. So if it's all helpful in the sense that it can get you down to a very specific time, give you other
Yeah. Now, I'm sure they've examined all that already, and I'm sure they've got that information. Let's hope so. Anyway, if the Apple Watch has not been stolen, because that's the other thing, we don't know what she had on her. Like, I would imagine an Apple Watch is worth quite a bit of money. So maybe it was stolen. We don't know if the police, but it'll be in the cloud, will it? I suppose. I don't really understand these gadgety things, but I presume that even if the watch was stolen, the information would still be in the cloud.
Pieces of data that it all depends what the Apple Watch is loaded with. So it's helpful, it's useful, and there's no doubt in my mind that it would be.
What Septet is it's design. But I also need them to find people.
Some businesses, I would have to say no. I've heard, I don't want to company shame anybody, but I was specifically told that the brand gym that she went to did not allow having those flyers.
Oh yeah, this was awful. It's when they were distributing flyers. Some of the businesses, places like, for example, the gym that she liked to go to, they would not let them put flyers up because they have a blanket, no flyers. They have a totally blanket, no. So they wouldn't make an exception. Gosh.
Posted. There were 3 different locations that she would sometimes go to. And it's my understanding none of those locations were willing to have the flyer posted.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is why I do not like corporate America. They do not bend the rules when they should bend the rules for stuff like that. You're talking about company shaming, but Matt, you also wanted to bring up some victim shaming. Some of the things that keep coming up, and I've seen it in the chat a little bit, is that Rachel was on a bunch of dating sites and that she was maybe meeting someone.
Yeah, these are the horrible sort of rumors that started going around, that she was on dating sites, she was doing this, she was doing that. And he, of course, is her ex-husband, but because the boyfriend, Rachel's current boyfriend, did come under suspicion in the beginning, but of course this DNA now means that he's no longer under suspicion. But he said earlier in this program, she was totally in love with the guy she was with at the time. His impression was that she thought he was the one, and he said that Rachel just wanted to be loved, to love and be loved. She was very simple like that. And he said there's no way, and he would know her. I mean, he was married to her. He said there was no way that she would be looking for anybody else because she was so happy with him. And her brother actually backs that up as well. So let's just see what he says.
What would you like to say regarding that?
I'd like to thoroughly squash that. I've already said that she was completely head over heels in love with Richard. She wanted this to work. I have no doubt that, she wouldn't do anything to jeopardize that, because one of the things that Rachel really wanted in life was to be loved. She wanted to love somebody and to be loved. And if she found that person, whom I believe she thought that she did, she wouldn't risk that. And then let's not forget the fact that she was parked at the trailhead. She did actually go for a run. The location I was just talking about, it's a good half mile down the trail. Everything points to the fact that she was legitimately going for a run, and for people to assume that Rachel must have been doing something wrong, she must have been cheating. I feel that that's victim shaming. You're saying that for this to happen to Rachel, she must have been immoral or doing something wrong, something that she shouldn't have been doing.
Yeah, and I don't know, you can see it looks like a brother wants to say something as well, and I think he does say something in a minute. Let's just fast forward.
Itself. And that's just reality. that I believe the creek is called Heavenly Waters. And you can't see.
Yeah, so this guy now is describing the scene of where her body was found. And it was found near this creek that's called Heavenly Waters. But it's a really inappropriate name, apparently, because it's a really gloomy part of the forest that nobody would ever go to. Nobody would know those tunnels were there unless they knew the forest really well. And Rachel's brother supports this in a moment because he was brought up near there, but he never knew these tunnels.
See it from the trail. But what I'm looking for,
I want to get on to Rachel's
when I
brother
create
talking about
my profile.
Wow, that's fascinating. I never heard Anna's house? Is that what?
And
oh yeah, the other thing that he did mention that was interesting, that there was a homeless shelter nearby called Anna's House, which I've never heard mentioned before, and nobody, well, I think the guys who live near there, but the host of this podcast, he said, oh, I've not heard that mentioned before. In fact, I might have a look at that just to see if I can get some information. Anna's House, it was called, and it's some sort of a homeless shelter. But then he did say it was where people flee from domestic abuse as well. And I thought, well, you wouldn't have it as a homeless. I mean, it is. I suppose if people are fleeing from domestic abuse, they are homeless. But surely they won't be in there with men. That's what I'm trying to say. Let's have a look. Anna's House, Bel Air. This is it, isn't it? So Anna's House apparently is a program of Catholic charities which serves families in Harford County who are experiencing homelessness. Now that's interesting, because if this guy is Hispanic, he's probably 98% certain to be Catholic, because most Hispanic countries are predominantly Catholic, like Spain. So that's interesting. So of course he could have been staying there. It sounds like it's not just for domestic abuse victims, it's for anyone who's homeless, is it? Just going back, this is their Facebook page. I wonder if they mentioned it around about the time when she went missing. I'm just going back. I'm looking for volunteers and things. It's just interesting because it's a Catholic charity. The guy is likely to be, I mean, it may have nothing to do with it. He says that, the guy there may have absolutely nothing to do with it. But because he's a forensic, he's like a geographical forensic scientist, if you like. So he profiles areas when, crimes happen. So he's been profiling this area, and what came up was the Anna's House. So it's a possible factor, or it's got absolutely nothing to do with it, but it's in the area. So yeah, it's an interesting point. 7th of August, yeah. So nothing mentioned about around the day of Rachel going missing. I can't see anything being mentioned for her, but yeah, well, it's an interesting point. Everything's interesting, isn't it? Everything's a possible, everything's possible. There's possible connections everywhere. Right, let's see.
24 onto the Monpaw Trail, and that's maintained, and that's only 300 yards from where her body was found. So that's very much of interest to me because it's a point of access, and it's close to where the body was found.
Yeah, so there's like a possible drop-off point very close by as well.
Rachel's body was found. And then the other point of interest to me is that the Monpaw Trail runs right by Anna's house. And I would like to know more about Anna's house for what I do. It's a homeless shelter. It's used for emergency services for families and women escaping domestic violence. So that place is of interest as well because it's meters from where she was found as well. And it may have nothing to do with it, but these are just some of the things that I look at when I create my profile.
Wow, that's fascinating. I never heard Anna's house? Is that what you said? Never heard of that.
Yes.
So the work that Doug does is next level, very fascinating. Profile in the geography, if you will, hence the Geo Profiler. You can find him on Twitter under that handle. Nate, to you, this is an interesting question, and I don't even know if you want to answer it, because if you know the answer, I don't know. But do you know if Rachel ever posted photos of that specific location before where they found her?
Now, this is interesting because although she may not have been on dating sites looking for people, that she did have Instagram and stuff like that. Now, sometimes people follow you, you don't even know if her Instagram profile or Facebook or whatever was open. She doesn't know who maybe was watching her. She's very striking. You saw the photos of her. You would not forget Rachel. You see her once, you would not forget her. She's very beautiful, very in a striking way. And so it may be that although she hadn't actually arranged to meet anybody or anything like that, who knows who was watching her? And if she posted on a regular basis, oh yeah, going for a run at the Mother-Vicki Trail, that's why you really are best not to announce what you're doing on social media, where you're going, not the exact places, because, I would imagine it'd be quite easy for someone to get obsessed with someone like Rachel.
No, I can't say, 100% definitely, but like Matt was saying earlier, we grew up a stone's throw from that trailhead. I spent, I'd say, a good part of my 20s living down in that area. And, I'd frequently run with Rachel, our brother John, brother Mike. And, we'd get out there and it's just the boys. We're all in our 20s. So we were stomping through the woods, flipping over rocks and trying to look for snakes and, whatever else, just to, blow off some steam. And I never knew those tunnels were even there. And we messed around in those woods pretty good. And, there'd be no reason. If you saw the location, you would understand that there's no reason to, even take a photo of that area. It's a kind of a U-shaped turn that you're heading straight towards 24, and then a U-shapes to go parallel with it. And it's a real murky creek, the Heavenly Waters Creek, and it just kind of disappears into the woods, and then it just takes you up the trail. So it's not a real impressive or beautiful place. And there'd be no reason to stand there, take a photo or whatever else.
By the way, someone pointed out you've got orange flowers right behind.
Yeah, interesting. Oh, and he's pointing out the orange flowers because apparently Rachel's favourite colour was orange. She loved orange roses. That's what her ex-husband said. So, oh, bless. Rest in peace, Rachel.
Behind you there, Nate. So the man upstairs or the woman upstairs is watching. Hope Ate Fear. I did not know about the homeless shelter. That makes two of us. That's really interesting to me. Doug McGregor, bring in the receipts, better known as the Geo Profiler. He's a forensic
line of communication.
I think that's about it now.
Pleasure meeting you two. Very thankful for you being on the show and talking.
And they're just so lovely, this family. I just want to say, so what basically they've said, like the two experts have said, leave the anything you want to know from us, if we can help in any way, just ask, which is very kind of them.
Talking with us today.
And Nate, my final question to you, and I'm about to ask Matt the same two questions, but how can we help you? What can we do for you and the Morin family?
Let's stay in contact. Let's kind of digress from this one and, just kind of rethink the process and digest, the information and the conversation, and then bring it back around fresh. And, let's just keep banging on this thing. Let's keep Rachel's story alive until we find this guy.
100%. We're going to do that here at STS. We're going to get Matt and Nate. They've got an open door here whenever they want to come in. And that is, couldn't make that any more clear. Matt McMahon, he is father to Rachel's oldest child. Matt, any final questions for either Scott or Doug?
I don't have any questions, but I would like to thank everybody for their time. Tonight is extremely important to me, just to make sure that Rachel's name does stay out there, like Nate was just saying, and that people don't forget, because that's the only way I believe that we're going to catch this guy. So thank you.
Yeah, he seems like a very nice man also, her husband or her ex-husband, Matt McMahon. So, Nate and Matt, I hope you get some answers very, very soon. It's got to be some answers soon, hasn't they? Surely. I'm 100% certain there are going to be answers, that this person is going to be caught. The thing is when, isn't it? Bless. Well, I've still got, in fact, I think what I'm going to do, because I still have some candle left, and I lit a candle again for Nicola last night in the members live, which I'll be editing soon and putting out public. Needs, I always edit it. There's some things that I don't want to put out publicly. But I lit another candle. I think then I was going to bed, so I had to blow it out because I couldn't leave it on. Wake up and the house would have burnt down. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to light this for Rachel. Rachel, who seemed to believe so much in God, and I hope she's with God now. And with, of course, Nate's wife, who died of cancer, and his little girl, who was only 4 months old. God, what tragedy that man has had to live through. But he's still, he's still sort of trying to help others. Saying nice things for other people, etc., and how he's got to support others. I mean, it just these people, they just make me feel so humble, so, in awe of their sort of what they can do, of how they can forgive, or how they can. I mean, like he said, oh, I have moments, when I'm down and everything, but it's just amazing. Some people are amazing. So we must always remember that, because there's a lot of nasty people, of course. And when you're interested in true crime, as I am, you think, oh my God, all these terrible things that people do to each other. And of course, the war at the moment, well, the war I'm saying, but wars, there's loads of wars. Israel and Palestine, that's just, well, it's Israel and Hamas, really, not necessarily Palestine. Just, just awful, isn't it? That people are suffering. So, again, this is for Rachel. This candle's for Rachel, but also for the innocent victims of the war. Not only that war, but all over the world. If only we could stop these wars. But all we can do is pray, really. And, speak out. We have to be able to speak out and say, we don't agree, not in my name. Not in my name. Russia, Ukraine, Israel, Hamas, but they're not the only wars, are there? There's wars going on. We just don't get to hear about the others. There's always something happening. But so there you go. So I've lit the candle. That I feel like some news is coming with this Rachel Morin case. Though I've been thinking that for a while, to be honest. Every day I'm checking the news, see if they've apprehended this person. It's just horrible to think, that he's still roaming around, isn't it? Anyway, thank you for watching. As always, have a lovely evening. I'll see you at some point over the weekend, I'm sure. Remember to live and love wisely. And until I see you again, may you. Oh, and I don't think I thanked everybody. It's important to say thank you. Thank you to all of you who've subscribed to my channel, all of you who have joined all my members. Anyone who sent me a coffee, sent me super chats, super stickers, super thanks. I am very, very lucky to have so many nice people watching me. Thank you so much. And I will see you again. And until then, may your God always go with you.